Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Contract, a Commander podcast. I'm Mike Almond, and joining me is my co-host, Alex Lapp. Alex, what's up, man?
Well, Mike, we do have something that's very up this week. We are making one of our listeners a deck right now as we record, live on the air.
Yep.
Tell me about it, Mike. What are we doing?
So, Chris Goodhind, I did make sure to check with them this time to make sure that I got their name proper. I'm can I start with just a confession here?
Please.
Okay. I'm very excited. Do not get me wrong.
I'm very excited too.
I am also dreading the heck out of this.
Now, why is that, Mike? Why would you be dreading this? We're building an EDH deck.
We are, and we're building it the way that we want to, right? We're building it the more contract way. We want to interact with our opponents. Yeah. We want to do the group huggy things, the chaos things, the cool stuff that we lean into. And Chris, awesome listener, and he wanted us to go through and find a cool commander to do this with. And the recommendation was... It's a unique one to try and put together.
Okay, well, lay it on me, Mike. What's our creature here?
So we are dealing with Piru the Volatile.
Really?
So let's go over the entirety of the card.
Okay.
2 generic, 2 red, 2 white, 2 black. So that is an 8 mana cost, 7/7 legendary creature, Elder Dragon that has flying and lifelink. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Piru the Volatile. Unless you pay Mardu, unless you pay red, white, black. And it also has the feature of when Piru dies, it deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature. So there's a lot going on the card.
That's a big girl,
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Let's start with this, with our short history lesson. Piru is an Elder Dragon, as Mike said.
Yep.
And this is not just any old Elder Dragon. This is very specifically templated in the style of the original Elder Dragons from Legends, like Nicol Bolas, that are 7/7s and have this very peculiar casting cost and have this very specific sort of echo ability that forces you to pay a cost on its upkeep or you sacrifice it. But Piru is the only one that has an upside to not paying the echo.
Right. That along with, if you wanted to know exactly how intense this dragon is, just look at the flavor text of Chasms of Dueling Energies course within her.
Oh, I bet.
So there's natural disasters literally happening inside Piru.
Right.
So let's go ahead and make some natural disasters to happen onto the board.
Well, let's make this clear because this may not be immediately clear to everybody. Although for some others, this might just be stating the obvious. Since Piru does have lifelink, that means that when she deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature, her controller will gain that much life. So 7 times each creature, each non-legendary creature. That's a lot of life gain.
Yeah, this is one of those... If you weren't sure before when you heard that it was an 8 mana cost creature, the whole point of this creature is very much to likely get it out and do something explosive once. If you can do it multiple times, more power to you. But this thing is, I think it's built to just this is going to be an awesome sweep. Right? But that's fine.
How can we make sure, Mike, that when it's time for Piru to get out there and do her thing, which is die in spectacular fashion, how can we be sure that death is going to be very notable and full of coursing energies and not just a creature died? I think you had a great idea, if I may, and that idea was that we should be giving our opponents as many non-legendary creatures as humanly possible so that when Piru dies, we're going to get a bunch of life and all those creatures are going to die. So let's start off, and in the interest of full disclosure, we are building this deck as we go. The way that we've done it here is we have some categories. As you may know, when we did some of our deck checks, I'm a very spreadsheet heavy person, so I have different categories for Piru here, and we're going to go through each of these categories and pick some cards. But these are just very broad categories. We haven't selected cards in advance that we want to pick.
Nope.
This is going to be part of, you're going to hear our thought process. You're going to hear us agree and argue and bicker over what cards we want to include. We want to make this as realistic as possible, Mike. And in the interest of that, let's start with the meat of it. Let's start with cards that give our opponents creatures that Piru can destroy.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. So, when we're talking about generating creatures for our opponents, right? There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. There's a bunch of donation effects. There's a bunch of different things where you're exchanging control of things. That's all well and good. I am much more into the idea of the more group huggy, give everybody creatures type of things, right?
You might see a lot of these cards in my K&T deck if they weren't black if they weren't black.
But here, so let's talk with a couple of those right off the bat.
Sure.
So, first one I want to go with, because I think it's the silliest card that I always want to see out there. I want to put Necro and Horse in there. Just 4 generic mana for an artifact creature, 0/4 Horse with Defender. When it enters the battlefield, an opponent gets control of it. It also says at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token.
Yeah, perfect.
So... awesome.
A Crow and Horse is the classic low to mid value group hug token generator that it ends up being like the 125th card in your deck. But I think that here, where we specifically want to grind out that value very slowly, make sure that everyone's getting tokens over the course of the game to build up to the point when we finally cast Piru and wipe them out, A Crow and Horse is just perfect for that. I agree with this inclusion.
Awesome. Give me another one.
Okay,
and
Mike.
You know what, everybody? You're going to have to bear with us because we're going to be going kind of fast and furious with this.
And we're going up and down just these search terms here. Mike, we got to include what is perhaps my second favorite land in the game, Forbidden Orchard, which is a non-basic land. Everybody loves this one. Tap and add 1 mana of any color. Whenever you tap Forbidden Orchard for mana, target opponent creates a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. Oh my gosh. This is the best rainbow land in the game. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to make our opponents tokens, and we're going to fix our mana while we're doing it. I mean, what more could you ask for, Mike?
You can't. It's value on a card that doesn't cost you anything to be able to do it. It's a negative that is turned into a positive because of how we're building things, and we love that.
Now, Mike, there's a cycle that I think our fellow group hug players know well.
Yeah.
There's one of each color. That being the hunted cycle. The hunted cycle is a cycle of creatures that are very aggressively costed for their stats. And the downside of that, quote unquote, is that our opponents will gain something from that, usually token creatures.
Correct.
Starting with Hunted Dragon for 3 red, 5 mana. For a creature dragon, it's a 6/6 with flying and haste. When Hunted Dragon ETBs, target opponent creates 3 2/2 white knight creature tokens with first strike. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
It's a great value on a 6/6 flying haste, immediately coming out here and putting a threat out, while also being in a position where if you get Piru out in the near future, or if Piru is already out, great. That's just more targets for it to hit in every direction. Love it. Next one that we're talking about here, Hunted Horror. I was excited about the 6/6 flying haste for 5. How about a 7/7 trample for 2? When it comes into play, put 2 3/3 green centaur creature tokens with protection from black into play under target opponent's control.
Now we have to be careful with this one, Mike, because Piru is black, isn't she?
Yes. Yeah, she is.
So Piru won't be able to damage those tokens. So I think that even though the Hunted cycle is exactly what we want, I don't think Hunted Horror is going to merit a conclusion because it's a non-bow. It doesn't work with Piru the way that we want it to. Now remember, protection is debts, DEBT. Creatures with protection from a quality can't be, number one, they can't be dealt damage by effects of that quality, including by Piru's effect, and they can't be equipped, enchanted, blocked, or targeted. But D's our big one right here. Piru has black in her color, so that means that she cannot deal damage to the centaur token. So, Mike, I think as good as Hunted Horror is, I don't think we should include it.
But I want a 7/7 for 2.
Okay, I know you do.
No, you're right, and that's kind of the point here. Again, when we're talking on the fly, we're on the fly, and all of those words sound awesome, and this is cool. And never mind, that doesn't actually.
Yeah, there's some nombos.
So how about our last one here that we're looking at?
Okay.
Hunted Lamassu, 2 generic white flying 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent creates a 4/4 black horror creature.
Perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Another flyer, another thing with evasion for the time being. Give somebody something else at the same time.
Now, to be fair, that's not as useful as I would like. It's only 1 token.
Sure. For sure.
But it's not so bad.
When we're leaning into Piru,
right?
Of course, I want to make as many things for as many people as possible,
right?
But especially something like these 2 on the hunted cycle, where the entire plan of it is it's going to hit, and yeah, it's going to hit one thing that you made for somebody else, but it's also going to get a hit. It's also going to hit itself. This is 14 damage of lifelink on the board, as far as I'm concerned. When you're talking about the hunted dragon, yeah, it's way better because you're hitting an additional 4 targets that you wouldn't have been before. But at this point, I just want to see how many things we can hit. How big?
Okay, Mike, you want to talk big? Let's really talk about getting a lot of tokens on the board. I'm talking about Tombstone Stairwell.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have talked about this. This is a great card, and it's really specking up in price. 2 black for a world enchantment with cumulative upkeep 1 and a black. That means that each turn after the turn that you play it, you'll pay 1 and a black plus the number of age counters, 1 and a black for each of them. At the beginning of each upkeep, if Tombstone Stairwell is on the battlefield, each player creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token with haste named Tombspawn for each creature card in their graveyard. At the beginning of each end step, or when Tombstone Stairwell leaves the battlefield, destroy all tokens created with Tombstone Stairwell. They can't be regenerated. So the important thing here is that we're going to create a bunch of creatures for each player, and that's on each upkeep. So when we're ready for Piru to die, it doesn't matter if it's on our upkeep and we're letting Piru die to her own trigger, or if we're sacrificing Piru at an opportune time, because as long as we've stacked the graveyards, which this deck definitely aims to do, we're going to have each opponent creating a ton of Tombspawn, which Piru can then completely harvest.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that I love it for. But the card itself, I love.
Right. I'm
a little concerned on the fact that it is dependent on the amount of creature cards in their graveyard.
That is a good point. Now,
go ahead.
I think that the fact that we're making a deck that's built around destroying everybody's creatures with Piru.
Yes.
I think that, this could be a little bit of a win more. But
yes,
I think that...
But it's also very cool.
Right. The fact that it gives our opponents a ton of value in creatures, I don't know. I feel like that kind of makes it where even if you're giving them like 1 or 2 or 3 creatures apiece, that's still... You get 2 for each opponent, 3 opponents, that's 6. 6 by 7 is, what is that, 35?
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's 35 life.
Okay, so isn't it... But at the same time, it's you destroy all of these creatures that it's creating at the beginning of each end step, right?
And then you make them anew on each upkeep.
That's right. Okay, right. So they're going back. They're coming. Okay,
right.
You know what? I can vibe with that then. I'll tell you what. Put that in the probably pile. Let me see if I can sway with a couple.
Okay, let's see what else we got.
Can we talk about what I think is probably one of my favorite cards in this deck, and a card that it should be played more and never is?
Please.
Can we just do Alliance of Arms is
I
insane.
love that card.
1 mana for a sorcery, join forces. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player puts X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way.
Great card.
So this is one of those cards that normally, if you're playing this in a group hug deck, or any kind of deck that we're talking about for the most part, you're going to be able to get your opponents to be able to help you out with it a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit harder in this one to say, no, it's all right. Everybody make a whole bunch of creatures.
See, that's the thing is, you'd be surprised, Mike, that people think that they can use your deck's resources against you. Mm-hmm. Somehow. Oh. They become convinced of this.
Sure. So here's the thing. That was me putting the one negative that was possible on this card.
Go on.
Now let's talk about everything else. I don't care. if Alliance of Arms is, if you cast Alliance of Arms, and of course you want to, I'm the battle cruiser.
Yeah, you want to put 10 mana into this.
I'm the stand. I would love to. Yeah. If I put 4 mana into Alliance of Arms, great. Everybody, I'm making 3 1/1s for everybody. Yeah. That is 12 creatures traditionally. That is
it's also destroying ours too. We got to keep in mind it blows up ours, so that's 16 creatures.
Love it.
16 by 7.
Love it. Oh, sorry. I meant 1 mana to cast it and then the other.
Oh, okay.
Either way,
I got you.
Point remains. It's awesome.
Great pick.
I would love to gain 80.
And the nice thing is that this is a 1 mana spell. You know how much I love my 1 mana white effects.
Mm-hmm. We got to keep in mind that a lot of the actual difficulty in making a deck with Piru as the commander is when you're dealing with an 8 mana cost commander. The everything else that you're doing has to be pretty low on curve to give you the value you need to actually get that good payoff. This is not a deck where I think you're trying to do something on curve every turn versus I want to get as much value out there as possible for as little mana as possible, especially if it's something that's creating things for everybody else.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me about, we actually talked about this card not too long ago. Your bestest boys over here, the Mog Infestation.
For sure. I'm very excited we just talked about this card, but we'll go over it again. Mog Infestation is a sorcery for 3 red. That's a 5 mana. Destroy all creatures target player controls. For each creature that died this way, that creature creates 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Yeah. So we're getting rid of all their problem creatures. And then we're doubling the number of creatures they control. Yeah. All the better to eat you with.
I mean, it's anything where we're going to give as much value as many creatures in this particular deck as possible. Awesome. Mog Infestation is a really nice, it is as we're going to board wipe all the creatures that are problematic now. But we still have the opportunity to get the payoff of destroying all those creatures later.
That's the thing is we can use we can use this on ourselves. We can use this to destroy Piru, and we are going to have a lot of effects that are going to try to get rid of Piru. And then we're making a bunch of creatures. We got rid of Piru, so the trigger goes on the stack, and we basically got the sacrifice for free, and then we're getting all of our life gain.
Yeah. And that's why there's value in it.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be able to do plenty of that. But that's also going to be dependent on how many creatures are out there. What if I want to make as many creatures as I'm willing to pay for with my own life?
I have just the card for you, Mike.
Oh, great. Yeah. Tell me about it.
I actually ran this in one of our Cardboard Combat streams.
Yes, you did.
To
it was
great
terrifying.
effect. We created a countably infinite number of rats. Plague of Vermin, 6 and a black for a sorcery. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of life. Repeat this process until no one pays life. Each player creates a 1/1 black rat creature token for each 1 life they pay this way. It doesn't matter if nobody else wants to pay life. We have a lot of life, and we're going to make a lot of creatures and then use those creatures to gain more life.
Yep. I feel like this is the deck where your life total is...
It's going to be high.
Well, not only is it going to be high, but there's also a couple of effects in here where I'm going to pay 40 life.
Yeah.
without
it's blinking. Like, why not? I'm rich.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Don't worry. Yeah, wait for it. Well, how much is a banana? $8? It's fine.
How much could it possibly be? $10? Okay, Mike. So we've talked about a lot of these different ways, and I think that we can't get to literally every card we're going to include, but that's one of the kind of effects we're going to run, and that's just fantastic. But we also have another kind of effect that isn't just about creating creatures, but about giving creatures and taking creatures. And I love this kind of effect. Mike, let me tell you about my humble defector.
Okay.
Right? Humble defector for 1 and a red creature human rogue. This is, it's the anti-hate bear. Tap and draw 2 cards. Target opponent gains control of humble defector. Activate only during your turn. I mean, what do you say about this? You're creating a relationship. You're drawing 2 cards. It doesn't matter if they want to give it back to you or not, because this is just becoming life.
No, we love this card as is.
It's great.
We love this card
even you don't have a commander. It's just great. Yeah.
Yes, it is a card where it's gone into several of my decks where I haven't really cared about what the rest of the deck did.
Right.
Like, of course, this is really good for Zedru. Yeah, sure, it's great, but it's also just good, right? Like, Humble Defector is just a really good card, and in this, it's I don't care who owns
this.
It's
a 2-mana card that draws you 2 cards.
Yep.
In red.
It's a 2-mana card, draws you 2 cards. You can give it to somebody else. Right. They can do it. That's awesome. Also, it's 7 more damage to be put on the board. It's 7 more life. I like that.
Absolutely.
Let's see how high we could get our life total when we're going with this. Another one that I did want to bring up, because you had given it some special shine.
Okay.
Not too long ago when we first talked about it overall. But now there's finally something that I think it would look good in. Why don't you tell me about how Blim would fit into this?
Oh, absolutely. Blim Comedic Genius, legendary creature imp for 2 black-red. That's 4 mana. He's a 4/3 with flying. Whenever Blim Comedic Genius deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of target permanent you control. Then each player loses life and discards cards equal to the number of permanents they control but don't own. I mean,
it's whew.
We already want people to have control of other stuff. We want people to control a lot of things.
Yep.
I think that Blim might merit a conclusion. It might not. But what a fun effect. It's basically the anti-Zedru, right? It's just the opposite of Zedru in every way.
It's punishing Zedru.
Yeah.
It's which is awesome. And frankly, a fun thing to do whenever, but again, in a deck where I'm going to give as many things as possible to destroy all of these things as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm down for that. I'm gonna throw it to you one more time, but don't worry, I'll put it on a tee for you instead of throwing it. A card that you've mentioned more than once and love. Sometimes you want to make some mana. Sometimes you want to
put a lot of mana.
Yeah. I'm leaning into. Why don't you talk to me about Witch Engine?
I would be overjoyed to talk to you about the Witch Engine. Witch Engine is a creature horror for 5 and a black. It's a 4/4 with Swamp Walk, and it has a mana ability. I'm sorry, this is not a mana ability. I need to check myself before I wreck myself, Mike. Tap and add black, 4 black mana. Target opponent gains control of Witch Engine. Activate only as an instant. Right. Now, why is this not a mana ability? Why does it say activate only as an instant? That's because one of the rules of mana abilities is that they can't target. And this targets, which means it's not a mana ability. It cannot be activated at the speed that mana abilities can be activated, which is to say, while you are casting a spell or activating an ability, or in the middle of another effect resolving. It's just not a mana ability. So this is
also, the card art is intense.
First of all, it's refunding 2/3 of the casting cost the next turn, and then you're giving it away to an opponent, and then they're getting mana, and then you're blowing it up. I mean, can you imagine anything better? What a delightful card. We talked about this on one of our earliest episodes. Very, very few decks are including this card. I think it's some combination of the group hug effect and the casting cost. But Mike, this card is in 82 decks. That's 82 decks, or 0%.
Yeah, less than 100. There's a lot of decks.
Mike, how is this card not another deck? Like, come on. Look at how delightful this is.
Don't get me wrong, it's a high mana cost card, but it's fun.
It gives you the mana back.
It gives you the mana back. Yeah, I'm not arguing. I like this card too. I'm probably at least one of those 82 decks. I don't know.
Probably.
Well, I mean, I've put it into a couple of decks, and whether or not I've updated my my tapped out list since then and my EDH track lists, I don't know. But I know that I've got it in a couple of decks.
Right.
Because it's silly. We love that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. What else do we want to talk about here? Or are we moving on to our next category?
I think we should move on, Mike.
Okay, so let's get out of here. Where are we going, Alex?
Okay.
Take me on a journey. Paint me a word picture.
Let's talk about effects that are going to make sure that we can use Piru to the fullest.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't want to have to hard cast Piru for 8 mana and then 10 mana and then 12 mana. No. That's bad. Bad idea. What we want is to cast Piru one time, and that's the last time we ever have to cast her.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. So we're talking about recursion. Right. We're talking about different ways to just... It doesn't matter if Piru dies. Piru's coming back.
Right.
Back again. So let's... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Piru's back. Hey, that's already one of the first ideas for the actual deck title. In the meantime, let's talk about what's probably the best... I think probably the best card that we're going to get for that. Gift of Immortality. So... Yeah. 2 generic and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. When enchanted creature dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner controls. Its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield. Attach that creature at the beginning of the next end.
Perfect.
Awesome. I've got this. As long as I get to the end of my turn with that creature back on the battlefield, we're good.
Without 2 different removal spells.
Yep.
It's coming back. And then we can get rid of it again.
So good.
Okay.
It's so good.
I love that one.
The end.
Yeah. No, we got more. We got more.
I meant as far as that card. It's that good. Moving on.
This is one of my favorite sorceries. What a high value sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
Victimize for 2 and a black.
Yeah.
Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tab. Mike, you're trading 1 spell, 3 mana, and 1 creature for 2 creatures reanimated right onto the battlefield. That's a pretty good deal last time I checked, and that's exactly what we want to be doing with Piru.
Yeah, it's insane, especially when you're talking about the fact that, hey, everybody, what are we doing? Making lots of tokens for everybody. You know who's included in everybody? You! So I would love to make some tokens and bring back Piru and something else of insane value by sacrificing a tiny, tiny little thing that I set out there just so I could be able to do this kind of thing again. We love that.
Absolutely.
Right? We love that.
I mean, you want to talk about value. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about these 1 mana and maybe even 2 mana, like, get this thing back on the battlefield. Let's start with this MDFC Malakir Rebirth. I think we should definitely include this one for a single black mana instant. Choose target creature, you lose 2 life. Oh no. Ow. Until end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. And then it is an MDFC. On the back, it has Malakir Mire, which is a non-basic land. ETB's tapped and adds a black when you tap it. Mike, I can't even think of a better land to put in this deck.
Nope. It is definitely on like the Forbidden Orchard type of level, as far as I'm concerned. Where it's like, oh, you just do exactly the thing.
This is so good that I don't even care that it has a land on the back. That's just gravy.
Nope. That's its own.
And there's another card like this, Mike. What's the other card that's just like this?
Well, we've got a couple. I like this because not too long ago I made one of my friends a Child of Alara deck.
Right.
So I went really hard into there has to be ways for this thing to come back. So one of the ones that I was looking for is, you know what the only thing that really, really bothers me if I'm playing Piru and somebody gets rid of it is? What if they exile it?
Oh, that's a problem.
I don't get the benefit unless I've got Kaya's Ghost.
Oh, hell yeah.
1 mana 1 mana for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Your best case scenario is this works like all of the other recursion to immediately put it back onto the battlefield like you want to with your Gift of Immortality, with your Malakir Rebirth. But it also has that added benefit where if somebody was super excited because they were going to path it before it became a problem, too bad. Now you have to remove Kaya's ghost form and then remove it, and that's going to be a problem for you as well. I love this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, Mike. What a great effect. But we're talking about these extremely efficient, just low drop cards. If we have some real mana to throw around, what can we actually take advantage of? How about Emeria Shepherd?
Yes, this is the one I was super excited
for
to see.
For a 7-drop, creature angel, flying 4/4 with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. But if that land is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead.
Yeah.
So we are getting Piru back, then we sacrifice Piru. Maybe we find a way to play another plains. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then we'll get her back again and sack her again.
You know what? And the thing is, I've always loved this card, but I've loved it for doing like the silliest stuff of like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice my Wayfarer's Bauble to get a plains, and then when I get that plains, I'm going to return the Bauble back to the battlefield.
Right.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I like to do with it. This is just good.
Right. Dangerous.
In this deck. I'm going to board wipe everything that isn't legendary. Cool. Also, I'm going to play this and play a land, and it's back again. So good. What else you got for me on this list?
Okay. Well, let's see what else we can do.
I mean, there is like the obvious of if I'm going to be killing other people's creatures as well, to be able to go into the traditional animate dead to enchant a creature in a graveyard and bring it back. But you being able to do that with other people's graveyards as well as making sure that you just go with your own.
Sure.
I'm not going to go through the full listing of Animate Dead because it's a very, very old card that people know. Yeah. And also it's very long. But we do like that.
I like this one quite a bit. Dread Return. It's 2/2 for sorcery. Banned in Modern, incidentally. That's how good it is. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flashback. Sacrifice 3 creatures. So you can cast this card from your graveyard for free, because who the hell cares when you sacrifice 3 of your creatures in this deck?
Right.
I think this is just great value.
Yeah, the idea of this is it's so easy to I'm going to pay 4 mana to bring back Piru from my graveyard. Okay, later after I've made more tokens for everybody, I'm going to sacrifice 3 creatures to be able to do it again. It's intense. It's very good.
Okay, I think that we've talked a lot about reanimating things from the dead, but so how are we getting Piru into the graveyard? As I said, yes, we have the option of just waiting an entire turn. Piru will let herself die on your upkeep if you choose not to pay white, black, red, but that might not be fast enough for what we want to be doing. We need sack outlets.
Okay.
At least in my opinion, we need sack outlets.
You're not getting any argument from me.
We have a lot of options for this. Obviously, we're in Mardu.
We're in Mardu. This is where sack outlets.
We have a phenomenal different number of sack outlets. But Mike, I think there's one sack outlet in particular that touches your heart with joy. Tell me about Fling.
Oh, buddy. Fling is one of those cards that you hear it and it has a fun ring to it. Right. But more importantly, it's just imagine it actually happening. So this is 1 generic and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Fling deals damage to the sacrifice creature's power to any target. So basically, I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to sacrifice it, it's going to do its power to anything that I choose.
Which is 7, and it has lifelink.
Yeah, which is...
I'm sorry, Fling deals the damage.
Fling is the one that deals the damage.
Yeah, so you don't get this
the one time, yeah.
But that's 7 extra damage, and you sack it.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you're still destroying Piru. You're still doing all the stuff you want to do. But more importantly, and the reason why Fling is as good as it is, as far as I'm concerned, is because I get to think of the idea of you picking up this dragon and literally yeeting it at somebody, and on its way it kills every non-legendary creature that's on the board for the most part and nets you a ton of life. I just like the idea of how much damage can I do at once.
I love it, yeah.
And I want to do so much damage that I'm going to give you stuff for me to do the damage. I'm starting to lean into this even more than I thought I was going to.
Right.
All right. Well, I take it back. Good job, Chris.
I have another angle to attack this from. Yes, we need to sacrifice Piru, but let's keep in mind, what is Piru dealing damage to? It's dealing damage to non-legendary creatures. So if we have a legendary creature sack outlet, all the better. Ghoul Caller Giza for 3 black. She's a legendary creature, human wizard, 3/4, and she has the best activated ability. Black, tap, and sacrifice another creature. Create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So we're making 7 2/2 zombies, and Piru's dead. So... by the way, since Piru is dying and that trigger is going on the stack before the ability is resolving, we're wiping the board. We're doing 7 to everything, but not to Giza. And then after all that's done, then we make the 7 2/2. So now we have this dominant board state that we can then sacrifice later if we want to. And we don't have to do this. We can do this to any creature, not just Piru.
Right. Yeah. No, it's going to be a good time. it's what's going to end up happening here.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the altars. We all know that Ashnod's altar is phenomenal. 3 mana, sack a creature, add double colorless. We know Phyrexian altar is awesome. It's the same thing, but you add 1 mana of any color. Often not as appreciated, but still as good. Altar of Dementia for 2 mana, cheaper. It's an artifact. Sacrifice a creature. Target player mills cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. So that's going to be 7 milled. And we talked about we want to be filling up these graveyards so we can reanimate things and kill them again. Whether you want to mill yourself and then reanimate cards out of your own graveyard, whether you want to mill an opponent, and I don't know why you would necessarily do that, but to get cards out of their graveyard with the payoff effect. Altar of Dementia it feels good at 2 mana for me.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. It is a nice little lean into doing something that... Do you know how ridiculous it would feel to have to use a disenchant on an Altar of Dementia, which isn't part of your win con, just so you can stop somebody from doing the thing that they can choose to do by not paying a cost of their upkeep anyway? Right. It's going to stick around. It's just going to be fine. Also, I was able to find the list again, so I feel much better.
Okay, great.
Because that means that I can lean into a card that is near and dear to my heart, because it is a fun.
Tell me about it.
Going to sacrifice things. I like Disciple of Bolas.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I don't love the idea of having to spend as much mana to use this as it's going to require, because if you want to use it, that means you're going to have to pay the upkeep cost on Piru. So that's 3 mana. And then Disciple of Bolas is a 3 generic and a black for a 2/1 human wizard, which means this turn, just to do anything, you're going to have to be paying 7 mana already. But here's what it does. When it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice another creature, you gain life and draw cards where... Sorry, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X was that creature's power.
I like that.
So this is now a 7 mana, draw 7, gain 7, gain whatever you would gain by Piru hitting everything.
Right.
Okay, I can deal with that kind of value. You know what I mean?
That's good value. That reminds me of Soldevi Adnate. Great card. Yeah. Our listeners love this card. 1 and a black for a creature human cleric. It's a 1/2. Tap and sacrifice a black or artifact creature. Piru counts. Add an amount of black mana equal to the sacrificed creature's mana value. That's 8 black mana right there. And you're also sacking Piru for the value.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we're going to have to decide. You know, we're kind of leaning into our, kind of like, okay, what are we going to do to draw cards here? But when you talk about things like instant speed draw for sacrifice outlets. Talk about costly Plunder and Altar's Reap. Essentially the same
great
card,
cards.
Except for one of them a little bit better as far as it can sacrifice an artifact.
Right.
But as an additional cost of a 2-mana instant, 1 generic and a black, sacrifice a creature. In Costly Plunder, you can sacrifice an artifact, but let's be real. And you draw 2 cards.
I love these
So
effects,
this is a 2... It's so good. I'm going to do the thing my deck wants to do anyway. Get some value off this card. Draw 2 cards. That's great. That's awesome. Let's wipe the board again, and also this.
I mean, you want to talk about some serious value for not a lot of mana. Think about this. We have Apprentice Necromancer, which is 1 and a black for a creature zombie wizard. It's a 1/1. And this is an interesting ability. Pay black tap and sacrifice Apprentice Necromancer. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste, and then at the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. So it's dying. We're bringing it back. We'll swing in for the free damage, and then it dies again, and we get, boom, everything's dead.
Yeah, oh no. Not that.
Right.
Not the thing that we want to do again.
That's a lot of value for not a lot of mana.
Yeah. I Alex, I'm gonna have to build this deck. Like, actually build
I thought that was the entire idea.
No, I mean, like, I'm gonna have to have
You're gonna build it for
now.
yourself and for Chris.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, you're not gonna have the world's most unique deck because Mike's gonna build a duplicate copy.
Right, but then as soon as you put it together, I'll go ahead and take mine apart. How about that? You can have the only one as far as the social contract is concerned. But yeah, no, I dig this. I dig the list of being able to sacrifice things, get the value off of it, and plus, I mean, there's a bunch of other ones that you can go into.
Yeah, I mean, we need to keep it moving here. We have a lot of categories to get to. So let's talk about some other areas for value. Obviously, with this sacrificing and with this destruction, everything's going to be dying all the time. We're making creatures just so they can die. Obviously, Mike, we're going to want payoffs for when creatures die.
Yeah, otherwise we're just doing it for the sake of it. Like,
I'm talking about Black Market. Classic.
Yeah!
Classic card. 3 black, 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. And, oh mama, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black for each charge counter on Black Market. Oh my goodness. If this stays on the table...
Yeah.
Yeah, huh?
This is my question. If this comes back to your turn...
You have a strong chance of winning, I think.
Thing, you probably win that turn,
I think you
right?
win.
Okay. Because at that point, they have to... It has to be removed.
Because they have almost nothing on the board, presumably.
Right. And you're going to be pretty close to being able to cast Piru again just based off of Black Market extra mana, let alone do
Black Market's
else.
mana is covering the generic and the black cost. You just cover the white and the red cost, and that's it.
Value.
Mike, I gotta tell you one more about one of the most underrated cards.
Yeah.
Vicious Shadows.
This is a card we've talked about.
My gosh.
I don't even know if we've talked about it on the podcast before.
We may not
but you and I have talked about it for a couple of
This
other
is one of our cards
ideas.
that really gives us interest. It's a really high cost, 6 and a red, but it's worth it. It's worth it, Mike. It's an enchantment for 7 mana. Whenever a creature dies, you may have Vicious Shadows deal damage to target player equal to the number of cards in that player's hand.
This is a win con.
Oh, it's a win con. Yeah.
This is if this hits the battlefield and Piru is out, you should win at the game at that point, right? Because you're doing. If you've put any tokens out there at all, if they have any creatures out there at all, and even a small grip of like 3 or 4 cards in hand, for every creature for every creature that dies, that is a trigger on Vicious Shadows for you to hurt somebody for as much cards as they've got in hand.
Right. I mean, if they lose 4 creatures, they have 4 cards in hand. That's 16 damage right off the bat.
Yep. I was gonna say as much as I love Vicious Shadows, the slightly less expensive, mana cost, but guaranteed method of doing something with that as well is one of my favorite named cards of all time. Okay. The Dingus Staff.
You dingus.
This is what I looked into very recently because I am finally making the mean Feldergriff deck. Or at least as mean as it can be without it being stacked.
The competitive Feldergriff deck.
Pretty nice. Yeah. Competing Feldergriff. Yeah. So this is a 4 generic artifact that says whenever a creature is put into any graveyard from play, Dingus Staff deals 2 damage to that creature's controller.
Yeah, that's really dangerous.
We talked about it a little bit earlier as far as how cool would it be to, cast the Join Forces, make as many soldiers as you put mana into it. Okay, great. Now when each of those things dies, that person is going to take... the controller of that creature is going to take 2 damage. You're going to also take 2 damage from the ones that you did, but you're going to also gain 7 at the same time. It's right. This... It's not even a war of attrition that you're playing. You are playing I'm going to hurt everything and hope that I do bad things to your life totals when I do, but I'm also going to get an insane amount of life in turn. It's so good. And again, Dingus Staff. Just everybody listening at home, do me a favor. I want you to think. I want you to get to a silence point, and then I want you to say it out loud right after I do. Dingus Staff.
Dingus Staff.
Wasn't that satisfying?
Very satisfying?
Wasn't it satisfying to say? What else you got for me?
Mike, I have Shriveling Rot. Shriveling Rot is
You should probably get that looked at.
Okay, well... we'll talk about my medical conditions in another episode.
Fair enough. That's for our other podcast.
For 2 black
contract.
Yes, part of the social contract is not talking about your gross medical conditions. It's an instant for 4 mana. Choose 1 with Entwine for 2 and a black. First option, until end of turn, whenever a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. Now, this is the more niche option. I think that if you are in a situation where 7 damage is not enough to wipe the board, it's going to be nice to have the option to say, oh no, we're wiping the board.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Really, the second option...
That's not why it's there.
The second option is the big one. Until end of turn, whenever a creature dies, that creature's controller loses life equal to its toughness. So we're going to come out positive on that no matter what. Yes. But our opponents are going to lose a ton of life.
Yeah, instead of gaining 7 life for everything that you kill. All right, you're going to get
net
hit
like
for
3, 4, or 5 maybe.
But specifically on the stuff that you own.
Right.
On everything else, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in on that.
We're causing a lot of life loss with this effect.
Exactly. And frankly, go for it. That kind of needs to happen. Right? Give me one more in this category.
Okay.
What else
We'll
we
do
got?
one last one. And Mike, this card is so special to me and so expensive. Lifeline. 5 mana. An artifact on the reserve list. And don't look at that price. Whenever a creature dies, if another creature is on the battlefield, return the first card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. You want to talk about worrying if we have enough creatures to destroy. Mike, with this card, as long as there's one thing left, so if we have any other legendary or any indestructible creature, and we're probably going to be talking about some of those here.
I didn't even
Everything
think about
is coming back to the battlefield, and then we're going to use our reanimate effect to do it all again.
Yep.
Lifeline is one of the weirdest and most ridiculously powerful group hug cards ever made. And it's $43.
This turns into if you have a sack outlet and another legendary
if you have a sack outlet, it's
battlefield
game over.
That's game.
Game over.
Holy cow! I didn't even think
Lifeline is one of the strongest group hug cards. Narrowly missed our group hug power. Not I think.
Oofa doofa. Yeah. I was thinking about oh man, I've got these cool enablers that you could do an extra 7 damage and stuff. Lifeline just wins. Yeah. Holy crap.
You're gonna win the game.
All right. Okay. All right. That's pretty sick. All right. Where's our next category?
Those are our enablers. Where are we going? Let's talk about how we're going to win the game, and then we'll take a break and then come back and talk about our vegetables.
I love it. Let's go.
So let's start with how we're going to win this thing. Mike, we're going to have a lot of life. So life gain win cons are definitely on the table. And I think you know what the number 1 life gain win con is. It's Aetherflux Reservoir. Everyone knows about this one. 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. We don't even care about that part. Pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to any target. That's a win con.
It is so weird to see Aetherflux Reservoir as a win con and a not combo.
This is not a storm deck. This is not a combo deck. We're only gaining a bunch of life and lasering people with our life gain. Yeah.
I'm going to gain 35 life, then pay 50 to hurt you. All right.
Yeah, when this comes out,
here we go.
It's as long as we've gotten Piru to do her job, somebody's dead and possibly the whole table's dead.
And listen, that's all she wants to do. She just wants to do her job.
No, absolutely.
She just wants to do her job. Let's talk about another one here.
Okay.
How about if we want to draw into just literally everything?
Okay.
How about if we just want to draw everything?
Mike, if you have a lot of life and you want to draw a lot of cards, let's talk about a card that I personally think should not be legal in the game of Commander, and that's Necropotence. This card is banned in Legacy. This card is restricted in Vintage, and somehow, Mike, this card is legal in Commander. I don't think it should be. 3 mana, black for an enchantment. You know this one. Skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard, and then you have your activated ability, pay 1 life. Exile the top card of your library face down. Put that card into your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Mike, when you have enough life that you're lasering people for 50, you can draw as many cards as you want.
Pretty consistently. It's sick. Draw your deck as you need fit. Because the only thing you're paying is life.
Yep.
Oh no. That thing that I have way more of than everybody else. And every other card draw effect that we're kind of talking about in this, which is extremely valuable because their whole point is, I'm going to diminish the returns because you're going to have to pay mana and you're going to have to pay some life to get some to get some cards in hand. Necropotence just says what is mana. No, we're not.
I mean, you want to talk about what is mana? Let's talk about this. Kyrix, son of Yawgmoth.
Yeah.
4 Phyrexian black. That's 7 mana, or if you know what you're doing, that's 4 mana and 6 life.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm so happy that you went in that transition without me having to do anything further.
Legendary creature, Phyrexian horror minion to 2/2. Now remember, legendary creatures don't get hit by Piru. Lifelink, that's on brand. For each black mana symbol in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Kyrix, son of Yawgmoth. So, Mike, basically as soon as we get a little bit of life on our hands, which we already have plenty, Kyrix is one of the most powerful spells in the entire game of Casual Commander. This is a kill on sight times 1,000,000, but in our deck, this is doing exactly what we want to do. We don't want to be spending a lot of mana. We do want to be spending a lot of life. And we want to be getting a lot of resources from our life. Kyrix is going to help us do that.
Let's talk about. I don't even know if it's on this list, but it's growing into my head here. Let's talk about Kyrix, the artifact. How about Bolas Citadel?
Yeah.
It's just like we're talking about the ability of
Bolas Citadel that's going to win us the game.
Yeah, that is another win con of pay life. Cast whatever the top card is of your library. Keep going. Okay, cool. And
you may pay life when you cast the top card of your library, and you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Pay life equal to its mana value. And then we have the activated ability, sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, deal 10 damage to each opponent. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Okay, you know what, Alex? I'm done with doing the I have so much life so I can draw my deck. I can pay all of the cards off the top of my library. You know what? Never mind. I don't want to do that anymore.
All right.
Let's talk about other ways that you can win the game.
Okay. Well,
with this kind
consider
of
this.
Set.
The best offense is a good defense in some cases.
Okay.
And in this case, if we have built up a board of creatures and we're wiping the board all the time, well, how are we going to defend ourselves with our creatures? I think you'll find that when you're wiping the board all the time, or at least just causing absolute chaos with Piru, simply making our side of the board immune to that board wipe that Piru is doing is enough to put us over the top and maybe even win us the game. And that effect can come as easily as 2 mana, Boros Charm. It's an instant for red-white. Choose one, Boros Charm deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Or, permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Or, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. 99% of the time we're picking the indestructible effect.
Indestructible.
The other effects are just there. I mean, it's just a little gravy on top. That's nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, simply making our board indestructible and then Piru deals damage to everything. Well, now we're the only ones with the board. So we are in a huge lead. Mike, tell me about some of these other effects that make our board protected from Piru's wrath.
So the two that kind of stuck out to me, because I love whenever it's something that's essentially the same mana value, the same everything else, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Flawless Maneuver and Unbreakable Formation.
Okay.
So 2 different instants, 2 generic and a white that says, essentially, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn.
I like Flawless Maneuver a little bit better.
Oh, I do. They both give your creatures indestructible, but then they both have different types of extra. So Unbreakable Formations has Addendum. If you cast the spell during your main phase, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain Vigilance until end of turn. That's fine if you're turning it into indestructible attackers. That can be useful.
Okay.
That's not typically what you're going to do. Flawless Maneuver, on the other hand, if you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. So right before Piru is going to die, you still control Piru. So let's go ahead and do this for free.
That's great.
Gross.
I like that.
Gross!
Yeah. Mike, let me tell you about what is one of my favorite creatures that I just jam into every deck that I can fit it in.
Yeah.
The Soul of New Phyrexia. Oh, mama. 6 mana for an artifact creature, Phyrexian Avatar, 6/6 with trample, 2 activated abilities. First one, 5 mana. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Mm-hmm. Now, we've talked about this before in our Rattlesnake episode. When your opponents know that you can do something, you can do it without having to do it. It's countering the effect before it even hits the stack. It
counters people's thought process.
Right. So
exactly.
That's just there as an option. You can use it to protect your board from Piru. You can threaten it to protect from other kinds of board wipes. It can just sit there. But, oh no, they removed Soul of New Phyrexia. What are we going to do? How about the second of activated ability? 5 mana and exile Soul of New Phyrexia from your graveyard. Same thing. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. This is the creature that simply will not let your stuff die no matter how badly you want it to.
It is literally too legit to quit.
No kidding.
It gets to retire.
The mana cost is
eventually.
high, but it's very worth it.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I want to talk about one more on this section before we move on.
I have an idea.
Go ahead.
How about something quite on theme? How about
you're already there.
How about Archangel Avacyn?
Yeah, you know what? We don't want to
Avacyn?
do the big scary all permanents one.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, feel free. But let's talk about the one that is just like right on damn theme.
Right.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well,
I'm typing this out as we go.
For 3 white, it's 5 mana, legendary creature Angel. She's a 4/4 with Flash, Flying, and Vigilance. Whenever Archangel Avacyn enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And when a non-angel creature you control dies, transform Archangel Avacyn at the beginning of the next upkeep. And right on theme, Avacyn the Purifier is a red legendary creature angel 6/5 with flying. When this creature transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, it deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. Could you even come up with a more on theme card?
No, that's the point. Like, hey, not only are we going to do the thing, we're going to do the thing and it's going to lean into the thing. Let's go. I love this stuff. That's pretty good as far as I want to protect my board. I want things to be cool. I want them to be indestructible. But I want to lean out of that list, but something very tangential to it. You know what's really cool mechanic for this?
Yeah, what's that?
Persist. Let's go into some things that can give our creatures persist, or more importantly, let's talk about giving some of our opponents persist.
There's really only a couple of options, but...
I know, but oh my gosh, they're so neat.
How political is the option to say, okay, well, guess what? Everything's dead, except exactly what I choose is not dying, or is coming back after it dies. Make your case.
Who wants to make a deal? What are we going to be able to do?
How about Cauldron of Souls, Mike? Cauldron of Souls, 5-mana artifact, tap it. Choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gains persist until end of turn. What is persist, though? When a creature with persist dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter on it. Yep. So
recurable, let things come
repeatable
back.
Recursion.
Yep.
Cauldron Haze is very similar. It's 1 in Orzhov, which is white or black. 2 mana. Same effect, but on an instant.
Yep.
2 very strong options.
Yes, exactly. And more importantly, here's the difference. Cauldron of Souls, that can be removed. So people can see what's going on. They can say, okay, we're going to get rid of this. Cauldron Haze, great. It is one more spell that you're going to be able to use without people expecting it.
Yeah.
I want you to imagine if you did the thing that everybody knew was coming, and they prepared for that. So Piru, Alex is probably, well, actually, let's do this the right way. Chris is probably going to let Piru die on his next upkeep. He doesn't have a sack outlet right now. All right, fine. Let's prepare for the board being wiped. And then Chris plays Cauldron Haze on his upkeep, and he plays a 2-mana, I'm going to keep all of my other stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's power.
Because now you're talking about a different type of threat. Now it's no longer we have to reset after the board wipe. It's, this is a board wipe for everybody but our legendary creatures and Chris.
Yeah.
I dig this. I dig this so much.
This is so much fun, Mike. I think we should take a brief break and then come back and talk about the fundamentals of the deck, the ramp, the draw, and the removal, and the lands that maybe aren't as flashy, but are very important and still on theme. So let's finish out this deck when we come back.
Okay. We'll see you in a second. All right, everybody, we're back, and we've got a lot of vegetables to get to. We've got a lot of how do we make the deck actually, do all of this cool stuff. But Alex, can I have some dessert first? Like, I know you don't recommend.
We can have a little bit of dessert.
Cool.
We still have to talk about how we're going to gain life.
Yeah, because Piru does it, but we can't always rely on Piru. They're expensive. So what else are we going to do here, Alex? Where do we want to start?
Let's talk about this this newer one that's quite fun, Angel of Destiny.
Okay.
For 3 white, 5 mana, it's a creature Angel Cleric with flying and double strike. It's a 2/6. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life.
Sure.
And at the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, so 55, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game.
So, this is a really good post-Piru explodes, end of turn, or second main, or whatever. I'm going to play Angel of Destiny now. Because you presumably have put yourself in a position where if Piru dies, you have gotten a decent amount of life. And now this is...
you've gotten a ton of life.
Yeah, this is now target player loses the game if Angel of Destiny sticks on the table. Woof. Alex.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to knock somebody out.
It for sure is going to knock somebody out. It do the work that we're talking about here. What else are we looking at as far as, life gain, as far as when you're actively gaining life, what's your benefit? What do we want?
Okay. Well, how about this one? We have Cleric class, which is a 1-mana enchantment class. I like this one. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead.
Sure.
And then we have level 2, which you can get to by paying 3 and a white at sorcery speed. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Aha.
Okay. But what about Level 3 for 4 and a white. When this class becomes level 3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yes.
You gain life equal to its toughness.
Yes.
So we have gaining extra life whenever we gain life, and Piru causes many distinct instances of life gain.
Yes.
So we're going to add 1 to all of them.
Yep.
And then on top of that, when we invest a little mana, we're actually getting a reanimation effect.
Well, not even just that. Like that middle tier is also the one that I find really interesting, because the idea of whenever you gain life in multiple instances, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Yeah.
If you have another legendary creature or something that you decide, you know what,
you can really bulk that thing up.
Yeah, that thing is going to be great. Even if it's not a legendary creature, but you give it some kind of protection from Piru.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now this thing is going to get how many +1/+1 counters? Well, as many as on the board.
As many creatures as were hit. Yeah. This has some utility on it.
It does. Yeah. And for it, like, again, the worst case scenario is it's a 1 mana enchantment that says you get a little bit of extra life each time. That's not breaking the bank for something that's kind of neat. Why not?
No, not at all.
I dig it. Give me one more from this, and then I want to switch on to. I like it. I like the idea of gaining life and getting benefit.
Right.
I want one more on this, and then we've got another section similar in life gain that I want to lean into.
All right. Well, here's a little win more, but this is real cheap win more.
Yeah.
Spirit Link for white, 1 mana. It's an enchantment aura with enchant creature. When enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life.
Yeah.
So you're going to enchant Piru, and you're going to literally double the amount of life that you're gaining off of Piru's trigger for 1 mana.
It's the I forgot what was the show Pimp My Ride, where the meme is the thing of like
your life gain in your life gain.
I put some life gain in your life gain. I love the idea of Spirit Link, almost like the armadillo cloak, except for way more interesting.
We also have Vampiric Link for black, which does the same thing in black.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting enough life, here you go. Here's some more fun.
And that is 1 mana to double Piru's effect.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt everything as hard, but it's going to make everything else taste so sweet. Let's go lean into a couple of other things. Like, Alex,
How about life gain payoff?
Yeah, but life gain payoff. I think this is a deck where if you wanted to make a budget version of this deck, you could probably do it pretty easy. Life gain seems like one of those playstyles where it's either really expensive or it's really cheap. And frankly, you can go either way with Piru and do pretty well. Everybody knows about the Exquisite Blood Sanguine Bond combo, but we get to benefit off just the inexpensive card in that combo.
Sanguine Bond is nothing.
Yeah, Sanguine Bond, $2 card, and we're hitting it for a reason here. 3 generic mana, black. So 5 mana enchantment that says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life.
Oh my god.
That is, if you so choose, target opponent probably loses the game when Piru dies.
Almost certainly.
And more importantly, enchantments are really cool. Like, this is something where this is going to stick around. You're not blowing it up when you're blowing everything else up. But you could also have this exact same effect with a creature in recent history. Mm-hmm. Alex, talk to me about Veto!
Yeah, I was just going to say, Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose for 2 and a black, 3 mana. This is, for this deck, this is an even better option.
Yes.
Because he is a legendary creature vampire cleric, so Piru doesn't touch him. It's a 1/3 with that same effect as Sanguine Bond. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. But then we have an extra bonus for 3 black, 5 mana activated ability. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Now, Piru already has lifelink, but that's just honestly, you're already getting a 2 mana discount for a better type line than Sanguine Bond. And you also get this lifelink line. This is a great include for 3 mana.
Oh, yeah. Whenever you get to add extra versatility onto something that also has the ability to stick around and not be, I have to work around this thing that I'm dealing with. Awesome. I'm all for that. This is great. What else are we going to look at here, Alex? Let's talk about more benefits of gaining life.
Okay. Well, let me talk to you about another legendary creature that I think goes really well in this deck. Karlov of the Ghost Council.
Yeah, that I was wondering which one, because there's a bunch of legendary creatures that care about if you have higher life or if you gain life.
But this works really well. Yes. I like this. For white and black, 2 mana, legendary creature, Spirit Advisor, 2/2. Whenever you gain life, so that's every single creature that Piru hits, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Karlov of the Ghost Council, and then you can pay white, black, and remove 6 +1/+1 counters from Karlov of the Ghost Council. Exile target creature. So we have this engine in Piru that is just dominating the board. Everything's taking a ton of damage, but not legendary creatures, Mike, and not indestructible creatures.
Commanders are still sticking around. Yeah, we got to worry about that. And not
creatures with pro red, white, or black. And there are some things that you really want to get rid of, but you can't. Karlov is going to take you the extra mile. Like, okay, how many of those creatures are there? Not that many.
Right.
But we're going to we're exiling them for 2 mana. And for every 3 creatures that are on the board when Piru pops, we can spend 2 mana and exile a creature.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to run into too many. Like, sure, maybe an opponent's board's going to be indestructible, so you can use this to blow up the Avacyn or whatever they have.
Right.
And then after that, get rid of everything else from there. But Karlov is really rewarding you for doing what you do normally, and he's removing the big obstacles, the things that Piru can't kill.
Yep.
Karlov takes care of.
Yeah, it's
and he stays alive.
It is one of those things where my favorite part about everything that you said, right, and about this card in particular, yes, it gets around the fact that the things that are going to stick around are problematic on their own, because legendary creatures, well, commanders are legendary creatures, which means
those are commanders. Yeah,
that's going to be a problem. Indestructible, well, that's a problem, etc., etc., etc. But we're talking about a 2 mana creature that is safe from Piru in a deck that's trying to gain life in a bunch of different ways, that gets the benefit of exiling target creature that would be a problem otherwise at instant speed. So you can just make this thing as big as you possibly can, and it takes you 2 mana each time to say, okay, we're going to get rid of that, that, and that now. Love it. It's so good. It's so good. Let's talk about something else that avoids Piru's wrath, but has a lot of benefit to you having as much life as possible. How about a Ajani, Strength of the Pride? We're talking about 2 generic white for a legendary planeswalker. Ajani comes in with 5 loyalty, +1. You gain life equal to the amount of creatures you control plus the amount of planeswalkers you control. That's fine. -2, create a 2/2. You make an Ajani's Pride Mate. That you get a +1/+1 counter whenever you gain life. Cool. Last one. If you have at least for 0, for 0, so you could have made 2.
His ultimate is 0.
It's so good. So worst case scenario, you have to gain some life for this to be in effect. But best case scenario, this could be just a 4 mana. Let's do this. If you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile Ajani, Strength of the Pride, and each artifact and creature your opponents control.
Oh, mama.
That is an almost everything. Everybody else, not board wipe, board exile.
All right, let's calculate this, Mike. As long as Piru hits 3 things, as long as there are 3 other non-legendary creatures on the battlefield when Piru pops, Ajani, Strength of the Pride is going to exile all of your opponent's creatures and all of their artifacts, and they're screwed. No mana rocks, no utility artifacts. All of their creatures are gone, including their commander. They have no blockers. And it's for 0. You can do it immediately, and they can't remove Ajani in time.
Yep.
Because when you cast a Planeswalker, and that Planeswalker resolves, priority comes back to you, and you can then immediately put a loyalty ability on the stack. And that's that.
Counter it or stifle. That's what you got.
Well, you could reduce their life total to less than 55.
Yeah, true.
That's the third option.
You need to
good luck with that.
Yes. So that's insane. That is a 4 mana. Essentially, that is a 4 mana sorcery.
4 mana win con.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say 4 mana sorcery speed, Cyclonic Rift almost. Because think of what you're doing to everybody else for doing what your deck is supposed to be doing anyway.
Right.
That's nuts. Yes, gaining life is not overrated. let's just put that. This deck is doing some pretty cool stuff with it. Is there anything else we want to hit before we get into our vegetables and potatoes and all of the other sustenance instead of the meat and dessert that we've been going with so far?
I think that's all we'll talk about for life gain payoff.
Yeah. All the other cards that I'm looking at that are life gain payoffs lead into card draw. So I kind of
we have other things to talk about. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and how about we lean into card draw then? You got all this cool stuff. Let's figure out how we're going to get it into our hand. Alex, I'm gonna help on the transition here because there's two of these cards that are actually kind of on the same list that we're looking at. Let's talk about Well of Lost Dreams. This is a 4 generic mana artifact that says whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. Piru dies. You do something else to get you some life, of which there are many ways that we're trying to go for that in this deck. Mm-hmm. When you do, you pay as much as you see fit and draw that many cards. The other part about this is you don't have to kill Piru every time he comes out onto the battlefield. He's still a big, scary 7/7 flying lifelink. So swing with him. Decide how many cards you want to get. Then decide if you're going to kill Piru or if you're going to let him stick around because you've got other cards and you've got other options. You've got other ways of making things work. I like Will of Lost Dreams a lot. The other one that I want to lean into because I think it is such a banger and it doesn't get enough play in, frankly, any white decks, but it should, is Dawn of Hope. 1 generic and a white for an enchantment that says whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. That's fine. You know what I mean? That is conditional card draw.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. More importantly, you also have the ability to pay 3 and a white to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink, which means you have the ability to give more things for Piru to eat on her way out. It's just more instances of putting tokens onto the battlefield to do more of the thing that you like to do with Piru, and I love that. I like feeding the beast. What else you got for me?
Well, Mike, I think that this is a card that a lot of life gain decks would like to include, but maybe more often than not, the amount of raw life gain that's happening doesn't necessarily justify it.
Okay.
Let's talk about Alhamret's Archive.
Oh yeah. Holy
For
cow.
5 mana, it's a legendary artifact with 2 replacement effects, static abilities. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So that's easy.
Yeah.
You're getting a bunch of life with Piru. Now you're getting double that much life.
Yep.
But it also has, if you would draw a card except for the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead.
Yep.
So we already want the extra life gain because we can spend our life as a resource and advance and win the game with it. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, any of the other draw effects spells that we have, those are also doubling up.
Yep.
So we're double dipping here.
Oh yeah, we're leaning hard into exactly what we're gonna get our benefits from.
Right.
It's so good. I love it. Awesome call. Give me. I mean, obviously, like, yeah, you're not necessarily gonna do the Skull Clamp thing to 1,000 1/1s like you normally would, but you still might.
Right.
Skull Clamp is definitely a good card for going in here. But even if the worst case scenario. Here's the thing: if our goal is to make 1/1s for everybody, including us, okay, we got some targets. The downside of Skull Clamp being equipped to Piru and then you choosing to let Piru die in some way, shape, and form, that's not bad either. I'm not leaning too hard into it. I'm not gonna sit here and, raise the banner and protest that it needs to be there, but I do like it.
All right, here's one I like.
Okay.
How about Erebos Bleak-Hearted?
Okay.
For 3 and a black, it's a legendary enchantment creature god with indestructible. That's exactly what we like because it's not going to get hit by Piru. It's a 5/6 indestructible. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. That's a standard Thorough Scott effect. Whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life if you do draw a card.
Ooh, okay.
And then it also has an activated ability. You can pay 1 and a black and sack a creature. Target creature gains -2/-1 until end of turn. So we also have a little sack outlet for Piru on here. We're pay 2 life, draw a card. There are a few things that we would be able to get that's better than that,
right.
And Necropotence is one of them. So
yeah, I was gonna.
Erebos League carded, I think, is a pretty good rate.
I lean into that. I like that a lot. I'll tell you, but if we're talking about drawing cards and paying a little bit of life to do so, how about greed?
Yeah. Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about greed as I type it in. So we're constructing our list, but it just seems like it fits so well, and the value is exactly where we need it to be.
Yeah, greed is a classic pick in black. For 3 and a black, it's an enchantment with a single activated ability. Pay a black, pay 2 life, draw a card. 1 mana is not that much to draw a card. That's one of the best rates you'll ever get. And for this deck, 2 life is... you don't even notice it. We'll say that.
No.
What is a sliver of 1 soul compared to unimaginable wealth? In this deck, that flavor text
it
really
fits
applies.
so hard.
Yeah.
It fits so hard. Yay, flavor
It fits
win.
so hard. Yeah.
We did it. All right. Anything else we want to hit in the card draw specific category here?
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, wait. Did we talk about village rights?
Village rights?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, so here. Either way, if we're hitting it again, I apologize. Village rights. 1 black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Let's draw 2 cards for 1 mana and do the Piru thing. I don't know if we can include it or not.
I think that falls into that same category of cheap black, sacrifice a creature and draw. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Well, if we said it before, I apologize.
Yeah,
if not,
we're
hey, look, it fits in 2 categories.
We definitely want to be running the black sacrifice a creature and draw cards effects, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What else have we got here?
Let's see. Well, at the top end, we have a nice effect here for not a lot of money. Harvester of Souls for 4 black, 6 mana. It's a 5/5 creature demon with death touch. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. As long as this is out and Piru goes off, you're going to draw as many cards as creatures that Piru killed.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, the non-token, it hurts me a little. A little bit. But I have an idea. How about we do the exact same thing for just a little bit less?
Okay.
So we're going to be giving a lot of creatures to everybody, right? But that also means we're going to be giving something to ourselves. So when you do that, I kind of like the idea of putting a Grim Haruspex in here. 2 generic and a black for a 3/2 human wizard with morph for a black. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. Not going to get the full value of everything that's on the board, but if you're able to kill Piru and 4 of your own creatures, okay, I can live with that. The other one that I was looking at was Midnight Reaper. 2 generic and a black, and probably the right call between the 2. Whenever 3/2 for 3 mana, Zombie Knight. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. The benefit of that being that when Midnight Reaper dies, you can also draw a card off it. So, 1 more guaranteed draw versus Grim Haruspex, which is not going to be able to include itself as another non-token creature.
Right.
Cool. What else we got?
Let's see. I really am a big fan of Zancha's Sleeper Agent.
Okay.
And I think it deals double duty in this deck.
Yeah.
For 1 black-red, legendary creature Phyrexian minion, 5/5, Zancha's Sleeper Agent enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. Zancha attacks each combat fable and can't attack its owner or planeswalkers its owner controls. And then Zancha has an activated ability, pay 3 mana, Zancha's controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability. So we're giving a creature to an opponent for that creature to be destroyed, but before it does, we can drain that player's life and draw cards off of it, and then blow it up and gain all the life that we just.
Yeah.
We can blow it up and gain a bunch of life. Yeah.
No, that's you got it in one, man.
Well, excuse
so
me.
good.
I should. Whoa, let's walk that back.
Oh,
Zandra's a legendary creature, so she won't be hit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
see, part of the deck building.
She stays
guys.
on the board. Yeah. They stay on the board, and they're going to continue to be forced to attack, but attack into what? Everything's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So can't attack you. Attacks into opponents they have no creatures to block with, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And people who need mana, they're just going to drain that player's life, which is what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
And we're drawing cards. I think Zandra's a good fit here.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
What do we... Okay, so we're dealing with our life gain. We're dealing with our how the deck is enabling, Piru to do the stuff. We've talked a little bit about the ways that we win with it. Where do we want to go from here?
Well, we can talk about the other aspect of draw effects, which is tutoring. I think we have a couple of options. Now, we've talked about some of our favorite tutors in other episodes, but we can touch on a few of these here that are very nice. One that's nice for this deck, Diabolic Intent. I love this tutor. Mm-hmm. 1 and a black for a sorcery as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, and then it's Diabolic Tutor. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand and shuffle. So Piru's gone, or a token if you prefer, and you just got the best card out of your deck, whatever that is.
Yep. And again, it's a social contract deck, so of course scheming symmetry is something that should go in here.
Because, absolutely.
Because let's be real.
And Witchclaw Talisman.
Yep. I was going to say, the only reason that neither of those cards were mentioned at the very beginning, because they weren't the first section that we talked about.
Right. Now, well, Mike, there's a tutor that you really want to make sure you get in here. Tell me what tutor that might be.
Oh, well, don't put me on the spot. I'm typing things.
Oh, it's an equipment tutor.
Oh, well, here's the thing. I actually want to talk about this a little bit.
Okay.
Because I am a big fan of Sunforger in just about every single way.
I think a lot of people are.
Right? It's just... The amount of things that it can do, especially now that it's been reprinted to the point where it wasn't like a $40 card or whatever it was at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Awesome, right? This is a budget.
But how many instance CMC 4 or less in white and red do we have in the deck so far?
Here's the thing. When we get into targeted removal, maybe that changes. But right now, I'm not looking at a lot of white or red instance, but I'm looking at some really good ones. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're talking about protecting our entire board and tutoring to be able to do it for the indestructible.
Sure. Here's the other problem, right? Because it's kind of a non-bow.
Right.
We don't want to have it on Piru because it'll unequip when Piru dies. Mm-hmm. We can't put it on normal creatures because they'll die. Mm-hmm. It would have to go on one of our legendary creatures. And yeah, we're running a few, but not that many.
Right.
And then we also have a few white and red instants, but I'm sure you can give me a better count. I don't think we actually have that many. We have a lot of black instants.
As far as what we've actually gone through here, we're talking about 5 or 6. Now, again, they're absolute beaters of those 5 or 6, but I think this is one of those, like, it's in the side, like in the maybe board kind of category.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think that Sunforger is a great card. We all love it, but I don't think...
As currently constructed.
Right.
Probably not.
Later on, if Chris changes this deck and adds a bunch more instants, Sunforger might be more relevant for the deck, but right now, maybe not an include for this deck.
Yep, I reluctantly agree. Is where I'm at. Okay, so what other tutors are we looking at? Are we feeling pretty good about? We can go into the idyllic tutor, just because is it idyllic or idyllic? I don't know. Either way,
idyllic.
Okay, idyllic. I'm thinking ideally. There it is. So idyllic tutor. 2 generic and a white for a sorcery to search your library for an enchantment card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. I mean, if we're talking about Sanguine Bond being something to absolutely wreck and win the game, if it's time for the game to end and you're trying to figure out how to do it, okay, there it is. Go get it, play it, let Piru die, be done with it.
Right.
Any other tutors, or are we feeling pretty good there?
Yeah, I think that's. I think that about rounds it out. We don't want to be running too many tutors. That makes our deck a little bit too consistent.
Yeah, no. And, in fact,
we are in a we're in a non-green
So, I mean, Wayfarer's Bauble is a great one. I think this is more ramp than a tutor.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's move right into ramp after this, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
let's start with Wayfarer's Bauble. 1 mana artifact with 2 tap and sacrifice it. Search your library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Just a excellent ramp piece for non-green decks. I really think it's a good one.
Yeah.
Because you curve out twice.
Sure.
Turn 1, turn 2.
And then, I mean, you said it yourself. We get into the actual ramp pieces after that, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's do the ones that aren't necessarily the immediate, like, oh, of course, well, it's going to have a soul ring. Okay, it's going to have the, like, we're going to give it a little bit more generosity towards the ramp and the, ramp cards you would normally put in, because you're right, we're absolutely not dealing with green here. But let's start with Ashnod's Altar, again, mentioning it from before. The ability to sacrifice an instant speed and generate some mana based off of that. Okay, I'm more than happy to throw that in here as something that we can probably lean into. The next one that I want to bring up is, again, not on this list, because things are sometimes just a sign for me to be able to talk about my favorite card, Oath of Lieges.
Okay, yeah.
Again, it is a social contract deck, so we are going to give everybody the opportunity to go ahead and get some mana onto the battlefield. So 1 white, 1 and a white for an enchantment that says, during each player's upkeep, if that player controls fewer lands than target opponent, the player may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So it is before you've drawn your card, land to go onto the battlefield. If somebody else has more lands than you, it makes games so much more fun for everybody to have an extra resource just for being able to play fair. And I that's kind of what I feel about Oath of Lieges. So I would be remiss if I didn't put my foot down. No, Oath of Lieges is going in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, no arguments here. That's fine by me.
Perfect. What else you got for me? Well, I'll tell you what, we've talked about ritual effects and how they're not very, consistently something that we want to put in there, with the exception of 1. And if we're also talking about the ability to give other people's lands, let's go ahead and get some benefit out of that. I want to put Mana Geyser in this deck. Our commander is 8 mana the first time that we cast it. If we have to
Mana
cast it
Geyser's
again, let's
really
go.
Nice ritual.
Yeah. So it's 5 mana total, 3 generic, red for a sorcery. Add red for each tapped land your opponents control. Awesome. This is very good to get ahead. If this is your turn 5 play, you're probably going to be doing pretty okay. If it's your turn 9 play, let's go.
There you go.
Let's get it. I like Mana Geyser a lot. I'm happy to put that in there.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick.
Okay. Man, Jessica's Will is really good, but it is climbing in price. It's just going there. But I think Jessica's Will is another one. 2 generic and a red for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast the spell, you can choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Just really good value on a stick. Card advantage as well as ramp. Cool. Go for it.
I want to talk about a nice ramp piece that this deck can turn from gross into truly disgusting.
Okay.
A Treasonous Ogre.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, Treasonous Ogre is a 3 and a red, 4 mana creature ogre shaman, 2/3 with Dethrone. And an activated ability, pay 3 life to add a red mana. So, what's the most efficient way to turn life into mana? I mean, we have a few options, like Keurig, but Keurig is dangerous and high threat and expensive. Treasonous Ogre is none of those things.
That is true.
People don't appreciate that paying 2 life instead of a mana is just busted. Mm-hmm. Paying 3 life instead of a mana is not that much less busted.
Yeah, it's
especially with the amount of life that we have.
I love how that's put on there as like, oh, this is also bad. It's like, is it? Is it? Yes. The answer is yes. This is also very.
It doesn't
very
look
bad.
scary, but it's very strong.
I dig that a lot. I enjoy that. I mean, we can call it however we want to. You know what I mean? But
right.
You're outside of green. You're leaning hard into your signets. You're leaning hard into a Soul Ring. It is what it is. It is if you have the ability to get out some of these other creatures that give you more benefit on getting land or getting mana for paying life or things like that, absolutely. I would say that the most fun that you can have with this deck is going to be, well, how much life am I going to bid to get whatever I do want? And speaking of which, I have one more card that I want to put in there as a social contract favorite that is not in any of the categories, probably, but it definitely fits the theme. Mage's Contest goes into this deck, right?
Yeah, you're paying life to
counter a spell, but you're bidding life with the table. So
yeah.
I do like the idea.
You're gonna win that bid.
Yeah, it's one of those things where almost like a rattlesnake, you could almost do the thing where you play chicken with somebody and they know you're at the poker table and you're looking at everybody who have smaller piles of chips, and then we look over at your side and you have all of the chips. You've made a fortress and you're looking through the chips to see everybody on the outside. Somebody casts a spell and you say, I'm going to cast Mage's Contest. You and I are going to bid life. One of two things is going to happen. They're either going to be very frustrated and say, nah, whatever, just do it. Or you can try and talk them into trying to see how much life they're going to make you bid. Cool. Either way, it's going to be fun for you. I like Mage's Contest to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what else we have for ramping. Yeah, I think that's, obviously we didn't talk about all of the generic mana rocks that I heavily recommend you include in this deck.
But also,
your signets, your talismans,
your diamonds, or
your soul ring, your diamonds. Yeah, any mix of any of those, especially the 2 mana and below mana rocks, are big time includes here. You're not in green. You need a nice ramp package. I would say 10 to 12 sub 2, because we talked about it more of the splashy ramp effects that will get you a ton of mana, but before you get to that point you need the very low cost ramp effects,
super low to the ground
to start. Exactly. Right. So we're not going to talk about those, but
they'll be in the
those
deck
are in the
list.
deck.
Exactly. When we're actually looking into the show notes and you go and click on the tapped out link for it, it'll be a full-fledged deck. And part of it is going to be, some maybe, because at the same time, as I am saving and editing this every time, I am scared because I have not done how many cards do we have before we get to where we need to end up, where we have to go, our actual vegetables, our vitamins, our minerals, our how we stay alive for as long as possible.
We talked about some of those.
We did talk about 2 of our really good ones. Is there anything else that we need to get into as far as our lands, or are we going with a pretty basic land package outside of the general? You know what I mean? Are we doing anything outside of course, Forbidden Orchard? Of course, we want to get into the point where we're doing as many of our if you can get the the godless shrines, if you can get the ones I like. This is actually a deck where the shock lands are probably going to be pretty good for you, because you're not going to be worried about life compared to any other ones. Like if you've got them, feel free to run them all in this deck. What else are we looking at in here?
I like Castle Lochthwain for this deck. So non-basic land, Castle Lochthwain enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp. It has tap and add a black. It also has 1 black and tap. Draw a card, then lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Okay.
In other decks, you might start to worry about losing so much life. In this deck, it's just nice to have an ace in the hole that you don't even really worry about.
Oh, sure.
Draw a card if you just need to draw a card.
I got a couple more that I'm somewhat into here. The one that's speaking to me immediately is Field of the Dead. just because it turns into another.
Big time.
It just turns into another target for Piru whenever it's going off. Field of the Dead enters tapped. Tap to add a colorless mana whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. You're going to be in a position where you can do a bunch of different lands in this. You're doing Mardu, you're doing 3 different colors. You can get pretty unique with it as you see fit. So the idea of getting a 2/2 zombie whenever you play a land, that can be pretty helpful. The other one is Hall of Heliod's Generosity. Because legendary land,
enchantments.
Yep, and you're playing enchantments. Tap, add a colorless, or you can pay 1 and a white and tap it and put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library, including the ones that die or go to the graveyard after they revive Piru. So if you can get to a point where you can just keep recurring Piru over and over, okay. As long as you've got your other bases of how you're going to win the game there, you're pretty good to go for the rest of that. Well, for the rest of that round, at the very least.
Well, I got a land for you here, Mike.
Okay.
How about Westvale Abbey?
Oh, yep.
Westvale Abbey is going to slip right in here. It's a non-basic land with tap, add a colorless. 2 activated abilities. First one, pay 5 tap and pay a life. Create a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token. And then we also have pay 5 mana, tap, and sacrifice 5 creatures to transform Westvale Abbey and untap it. It transforms into Ormondal Profane Prince, which is a black legendary creature demon, 9/7, not touched by Piru's effect, with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste. A more perfect on-theme land you could not possibly ask for.
No, and I apologize for the noise that I made. It was not I hate this card. It was much more of I didn't think about this.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, here's what I'm going to say, Alex. So if my math is right, and I've been paying attention as best as I possibly can here, we are currently at 61 cards, including Piru themselves, that aren't lands.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Mardu. So we want to, I'm feeling pretty good about, land basis of wanting to be at like 38 to 40 here.
Yeah, around there.
And we're at 39. If everything else we do from this point is lands. I think we did it, buddy.
No, Mike, we're missing a category.
What category?
Removal.
Oh, no! We got to do some fixing.
We'll make cuts.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so in Mardu, we have some excellent options for removal.
Yes,
Let's start
you
with
do.
The big ones, the rats.
Yeah.
The rats.
Yeah.
Which wraths should we include?
Piru.
Piru. I like... I think we have a lot of nice options. I'm always going to recommend Austere Command.
Okay.
In my opinion, that's, as far as high-cost board wipes go, I think this is one of the best ones. For 4 white, it's a sorcery with choose 2. It's a modal effect. Destroy all artifacts or enchantments or creatures with mana value 3 or less or creatures with mana value 4 or greater.
Yep.
So we're probably not necessarily using the last 2 all the time, but Piru's not always going to be out and destroying stuff. We need to have some board wipes to take care of some stuff, and this is an extremely flexible board wipe.
Yep.
I like running it.
Can I talk about the most flexible board wipe that makes me very happy because it also fits every other thing that I want to do in this deck?
Sure, let's see.
It's our favorite girl. Let's talk about Elspeth, Sun's Champion.
Oh, yeah.
4 generic, 2 white for a 4 loyalty planeswalker, Elspeth. +1, put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Yes, it is a board wipe that gives us the other things that we want if we don't use the board wipe yet. -3, destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Awesome. Also works for what we want to do. -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2, and have flying. We don't care about that. We're not worried about that. We're worried about those first 2 things. In this particular section, we're worried about destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Because, great, let's do a board wipe on all the scary stuff and continue to let the small things still be on the board, still be able to fund more tokens and everything like that we normally would. But it also has the other side of, I want to create more tokens as we go. I dig the heck out of having Elspeth on this deck.
You want to talk about destroying stuff and getting value.
Yep.
Let's talk about one of my pet board wipes. Martial Coup.
Yeah, that was the other one I was going to go to.
Martial Coup for X white. Sorcery, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures.
Yup.
So we're getting that nice board wipe, and then we're setting up with a nice board for ourselves that we can then sacrifice and destroy later on with Piru and our other effects. I love this board wipe so much.
Very good. Very, very, very good. All right. Any other board wipes we want to hit before we get into the more targeted removal here?
How about this one?
Yeah.
I mean, we have Deadly Tempest. Here's a nice on-theme option. For 4 black, it's a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Each player loses life equal to the number of creatures they controlled that were destroyed this way. We're trying to make people die through high life loss.
Exactly. We want to get as much encouragement to. We're going to destroy things, and when we destroy things, we want it to hurt just a little bit more than it's hurting us. So
exactly,
I love that. That's
Great.
Very, very good.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's talk about spot removal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You got to have spot removal.
Let's see if we can make Sunforger worthwhile in this deck.
Yeah, maybe. And being in white and black, we have access to the finest spot removal in the entire game.
Only the finest.
Of course, we're talking about swords. Of course, we're talking about paths. But we have a huge number of options.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
let's see what we're looking at.
I mean, let's
here.
talk about it. I mean, like swords and path go in here, right? They're the best.
Yes, they do.
They have to be.
Yes, they do.
And they lean into what we want to do because we are going to give some benefit for the terrible, terrible thing that we're already doing. The social contract.
Yeah, let's talk about, because we talked about Karlov of the Ghost Console. That's a nice spend life and get rid of something.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Aili Eternal Pilgrim.
Okay.
Which is for white-black. That's 2 mana, legendary creature, core cleric with Death Touch. She's at 2/3. She has 2 activated abilities. The first one is pay 1 and sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Nice effect.
Yep.
We also have pay 1 white-black, sacrifice another creature, exile target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total. Mm-hmm. That's not going to be a problem.
No, especially when it's another creature that gets to stick around because they're legendary, so we're not worried about it.
Yep, she is legendary.
Awesome. Again, another beneficiary.
Repeatable exile.
Yep. Let's see. I kind of wanted to lean into our other Teysa, Orzhov Scion.
Okay.
Because we've got a 3 mana, so 1 generic white-black for a legendary creature, human advisor, 2/3. Sacrifice 3 white creatures, remove target creature from the game, so exile target creature, right?
Yep.
And then whenever another black creature you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. It doesn't say another non-token black creature.
Yeah.
So if we're making tokens of anything, and we're making any black creatures, if we've got any of our standard black creatures that are coming in here, we're already repopulating the board a little bit with more tokens for Piru to come back out into a decent board state. And at the worst case scenario, okay, great. We've got 3 white creatures, exile target creature. I kind of dig a little bit of the versatility on this card. It might be one of those, like, doesn't quite make the cut, but I do like it. And I think it at least has to be mentioned. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, as long as we're talking about our pet cards.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Winds of Abandon real quick.
Oh, no. This is not a pet card. This is going in the deck.
This is a red card. 1 and a white for a sorcery. Exile target creature you don't control. For each creature exiled this way, its controller searches their library for a basic land card, and those players put those cards onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. And of course, it has overload for 4 white, which turns target into each. Mm-hmm. So we will exile each creature we don't control. And then we have a mass exile board wipe that only hits our opponents and ramps them hard. So we're going to get them to cast a lot of more spells that we can make use of.
I dig it. And
it's modal. You can remove one thing. You can remove everything.
No, it's. I'm trying to think of something. Everybody, give us a little bit of a break and bear with us because we are again, we're probably about 2-3 hours into doing this at this point.
I mean, we're in Orzhov. We have the powerful Orzhov effects.
Do.
We have Anguished Unmaking.
Yeah.
For 1 white black, instant exile target non-permanent. You lose 3 life. We have D-Spark for white and black. That's 2 mana for an instant. Exile target permanent, CMC 4 or greater. We have Utter End, 2 white black, instant exile target non-land permanent.
Oh.
In Orzhov, we have
lots of options.
Oh, yeah.
One of the ones that I was excited to do is Crib Swap. Let's talk about, okay, there's a legendary, somebody's commander is a problem, and we have to figure out a way to get around it, and Piru isn't going to be able to do it themselves. Okay, great. We're going to exile the commander, and we're going to create a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter token with changeling, so it's all creature types. But more importantly, legendary is not a creature type. So now we're getting rid of that. We're giving them a 1/1, and that's one more target for Piru when Piru goes off. I dig that.
Sure. Well, this is a card that I think is underserved because it's part of this cycle from Strixhaven that's had the cost reduction. If you give your opponent a benefit, Baleful Mastery.
Yeah.
For 3 and a black, it's an instant. You may pay 1 and a black rather than pay this spell's mana cost. If you paid 1 and a black for this spell, an opponent draws a card. Exile target creature or planeswalker.
Oh no.
So for us, we're always paying the 1 and a black, 2 mana, exile target creature, planeswalker, and an opponent draws a card.
Yeah.
We talked about these back when in our Strixhaven social contract set review. I think this might be a nice inclusion here.
Absolutely. It's this is well worth it as far as I mean, you don't ask the entire table who wants to make a deal. You ask 2 people at the table who wants to make a deal at that point. Yeah. But yeah, no, getting some value, putting that out on there, and at a much better cost than you would normally be looking for a little bit of fun. Sure, I love it.
Okay, Mike. So we've talked about a lot of cards.
Yes.
And I bet we've talked about more cards than can legally fit in a 100-card commander deck. So how many cards?
Well, here's the thing. The good news, right? The good news.
Yeah.
Is that we're at 76 cards.
Plus lands.
The bad news is I have 4 lands.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
you have those 4 lands, and we're going to populate the rest of those with our tap lands, fetch lands, basic lands, whatever. I mean,
so we're at
you're the one building the deck. It's probably going to be some more budget lands.
Yeah, we're at 70. We're at 72 total cards that are not lands or modal flip lands.
Okay, and if we're assuming 36, then that's 108.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 8 cards over.
Yep. So what are we getting rid of?
So whenever I'm looking at cards to get rid of, the first thing that I would do is look at all their prices and cut the most expensive stuff.
Okay.
But I have a feeling that we've tried to pick budget, but I want to see. Go ahead and sort those cards, Mike, by price, and tell me what's at the extreme top end that we can just lop off.
Sure. Well, I mean,
I love Chris, but we're not trying to give him a $10,000 deck, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be like, hey, we're really good at building decks. Do all of the most best expensive cards. Okay. Good.
So let's look at our top most expensive cards. Are any of them above $20?
We're actually doing pretty good as far as above 20.
Yeah, we've been trying to keep it budget.
Well, there is one.
Okay.
There's one very specific one, but I love it so much.
Is it Lifeline?
It's Lifeline, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, here,
Lifeline
actually, this is perfect. We are going to do this and make it more social contract worthy already. Because one of the cards that we can get rid of is one that neither of us think should actually be legal in Commander. Let's get rid of Necropotence.
Okay.
It's extremely powerful, but
how much does Necropotence cost?
It is $41. It's about $40.
Yeah. So Necropotence, Chris, if you want to upgrade your deck, we've got a short list for you, and Necropotence is on it.
Yep.
But yeah, let's go ahead and cut Lifeline and Necropotence.
Okay.
Both great, excellent picks for this deck. Both a little bit out of our budget. So we have 6 cards left to cut. What's up next on the chopping block?
Okay, so that's actually pretty interesting. There's a big disparity on Karlov of the Ghost Council.
How much does he cost?
Well, somewhere between $13 and $20, depending on who you're buying it from.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, Karlov's a great pick, but we can cut it.
I mean, we can get rid... If we're talking about the heavy price cards, the other ones that we're leaning into are Diabolic Intent. And
is that really that expensive?
It is a $30+ card, my friend.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Okay,
and then
let's cut that.
And then the other one is Jessica's Will, which again is somewhere between $24 and $35, depending on where you're getting it.
So, how many cards is that's 5 cards?
That is that's 4, and then Karlov of the Ghost Council if you get rid of. But so frankly, I would do my best to keep that if I can.
You would? Yeah.
I would, just because of what it can be. And what it can do.
That's fine.
The rest of it is, we're dealing with $10 and less.
Okay, so we're good there.
Yeah.
We're good there. Let's, our next area of cuts is looking at the mana curve and looking at the cards that are at the very top end of the mana curve. And we don't want to have too many cards that are 6 CMC or more.
Yeah.
We want to limit that number. So let's look at the highest mana value of all the cards in the deck.
Sure. You ready? It's Piru.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay, now we can't cut Piru.
So then we look at the next ones. For 7 mana cost, we have Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth. And we also have Vicious Shadows.
Okay. I don't want to cut Vicious Shadows because
it's too much of a pet card.
Kirik is super mean.
This is true. So
why don't we cut Kirik and that can be a maybe.
Okay. And then we need to get 2 more gone in our 6 CMC. Mana cost. I forgot. It's changed.
It's mana cost, or mana value.
So we've got 6 total of 6 CMC. We have Austere Command. We have Elspeth.
Okay.
We have Deadly Tempest. And we have Bolus. We have Bolus's Citadel. And then we have the one that I think is probably my cut, even though it's the most budget-friendly of them all, Harvester of Souls.
Okay, let's cut Harvester of Souls.
Okay, and then we do have...
we have one more cut to do?
We have one more cut, but we also have one more 6 mana cost spell, and I refuse. You can't make me do it, because it's Soul of New Phyrexia, and I wouldn't let you do that to your boy.
No, we have to keep Soul of New Phyrexia.
Can I make one more... Can I make one more thing as far as yes, we can make one more cut. We also do have 2 different we have 2 different spells that are lands on the other side. Does that make a difference to you at all if we're making one more cut versus not?
No, for me personally, and this may be different for other people, if it is a land on the other side, I'm counting it as a land.
Okay.
That's just for me.
Okay.
So if we're counting the MDFCs as lands, how many lands does that mean?
I mean, we would be able to go one more and still feel pretty comfortable. Like, we don't have to make another cut. We had one more cut to make, and we don't have to make it. So the ones we talked about that are going into our maybe board, we're talking about Lifeline, we're talking about Necropotence, we're talking about Karlov. We're talking about all the ones that we already talked about. It's what it comes down to. Diabolic Intent, Jessica's Will. Leaning more away from going into the heavy mana cost on things.
Right.
And also just, sorry, Harvester of Souls, but you got to go. So,
I mean, the cuts are always hard.
Yep.
And we have to make those calls. So we've done it. Mike, tell me, what is our average mana value of our deck?
Well, give me a second, because now I got to edit.
Okay.
Okay, so the ones that I said we have to remove. Save and continue editing. Perfect. So, we're at a total listing of all the cards that we've mentioned. We're at 70 cards. That includes...
Sorry, come again?
We're at 70 cards that are on this list currently. That includes 4 lands. Mm-hmm. And that also includes 2 flip lands.
Which I'm counting as lands.
Right. So we are at we're at a total of 66, 64.
64.
Yes, we're at 64 spells.
Okay. So that's 36.
That's 36. That's 36 lands. I typically, if I'm not
you
playing
include a Piru, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. including Piru. So we are. I typically, if I'm playing a deck that doesn't have green, I'd like to lean more into that 38 range.
I mean, that's fine, but before that, tell me, what's our deck CMC?
Yeah, 3.21 currently.
Okay,
that's not bad, right?
It's not hyper aggressive, but that's modest,
right? It for a deck with a commander that's a mana cost of 8.
Yeah,
I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah,
but here's
3.21 is not bad. So how many cards do we have that's CMC 6 or higher?
6 or higher, a total of 7, including our commander.
Okay. I mean, that's a little bit more than would be advisable, but that's totally fine.
Well, and the other part of that is, the ones that we're looking into there are for the ones that are 6 are board wipe, Bolus's Citadel, Soul of New Phyrexia, and Vicious Shadows. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's not like we're indulging in splashy effects.
No.
These are cards that are
these are
help
not
us
win more. These are not lose less. They are leaning into this needs to be done right now for this.
And
game
if you don't like high CMC board wipes, that is a really easy swap.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. Alex.
Like, I prefer Wrath of God.
We did the thing.
We did the thing.
We did the thing.
What's the damage? What does TCG players say the price of this deck is?
Give me a guess.
I would say that this deck
currently has everything except for your land base, with the exception of, frankly, some pretty expensive lands. And if we're getting really far into it, I don't want to get rid of
so we're not including any shocks, fetches, or anything else in the land base other than the 6 non-basics we talked about.
Yes.
Okay. And we cut those. I would say this deck, $280.
Not bad. TCG Player Marketplace says it's somewhere between $254 and $276.
Pretty close guess.
That's pretty good.
All right.
Guys, this is pretty solid deck without having to break the bank. If you've
Chris, I hope you're happy. No, I actually do hope you're happy.
No, Chris, please let us know in our Discord and post it out here. Like, again, this is a deck that I'm pretty sure I've got everything to make this, with the exception of like a couple of cards. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try and put this together myself at some point to see how it feels.
There's only one question left to ask.
Oh, of course.
What's the name of this deck?
So, I had a couple of ideas, right?
Okay.
We made a couple of phrases to it, like, guess who's back kind of thing. I kind of like the idea of guess who's back dragon, because it's a dragon that keeps coming back, but that's because I'm silly.
That is a little bit silly.
I do like the idea of feed the beast, because we are literally doing things to try and put creatures out onto the board and make as many things for Piru to nom on her way to the graveyard or back to the command zone or wherever she's going to end up going. I also just like the idea of, the entire thing is I'm going to get as much life as I possibly can by destroying everything.
Right.
It's my life and it'll die if I want it to. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't come up with one, the alternative is we make people answer and tell us what the name of this deck is when they're looking it up.
Yeah, we're going to have to ask our listeners what the name of the deck is.
I think it's name TBD with some alternates, but I'm down for it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, to the listeners, what did you think about this episode? I hope that Chris liked it, because you're getting an awesome deck.
Yeah.
But to everybody who isn't Chris,
about this.
Yeah, how do you feel about this episode? We basically made this deck live. We didn't prepare cards in advance.
Yeah.
And I think it was an interesting experiment. I think that we came out rather successful. Now, we haven't goldfished the deck yet.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that it won't be awful.
This is not going to be. This is a functional deck, is what I will say.
It's a fun deck, yeah.
And I will say this: I had mistyped Forbidden Orchard, so I took out one. I took out one extra card. So Forbidden Orchard was not one of the lands that was in here. that does...
Well, it should be.
It should be. It has to be, right? But if anything, it also leans more into your really, really good guess, because you said about 280, and now the market price is somewhere between 274 and 295. So I just wanted to give you...
So I nailed it.
I wanted to give you your due props. You know what I'm saying?
So I totally nailed it. That's nail on the head.
Right. Hole in one. Well done.
All right.
Everyone, speaking of which, if you like this deck, and there was any reason that, you might want to check it out,
or buy any of the cards in it.
Exactly. Or, all the other good stuff. Let's talk about where you can go to do that, everybody. You can go to bit.ly/EDH_social. You can also, if you want to talk to us about things that we should have put into this deck, things that, why did you put this into this deck? Questions. Or if you want to say, hey, that was really cool, you should do one on this commander.
You should make me a deck.
Exactly. You know what? Bring it. And as I am absolutely encouraging you to give us your opinion, as long as you also recognize my ability to put it off until Alex and I recover from this 3 to 4 hour extravaganza that we've gone through today.
Well, this sounds like a really fun deck. I would like to
it.
play this deck. I would like to play against this deck.
It's weird in the best way. Alex, if anybody has any questions for you about how some of the rules would work, something like the Witch Engine, how does that work, etc., where would they go to find you?
Witch engines, how do they work? You can find me on Twitter at Lappermedic, LAPPERMEDIC, or you can email me directly at alex@edhrec.com.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed our live deck tech. We hope you have enjoyed kind of the insight that we have in building a deck. And more importantly, we hope that we've said something or given you some insight into a way to enjoy playing with your play group a little bit more. Again, go ahead and hit up our Discord. The link will be in the show notes if you want to talk with us, if you want to talk with people like Chris, who gave us this awesome idea for this deck. If you want to interact with a lot of people that just want to have more fun playing EDH, it's a good place to be. In the meantime, we'll talk to you soon.
Mike, I think we forgot something.
No. Please don't.
I think we forgot Mathis Fiendseeker.
Alright. Yeah, you're right.
Alright, let's find a way to put it in there.
Okay, fine. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye now.